it hit the world like a bomb this week. First Reddit, then Twitter, and finally the whole world started to, under the hashtag Swedengate, buzz about the despicable acts which Swedes allow themselves to perform. Swedes let their guests starve while the host feed on them. Wait. Vem fan har skrivit det här? The hashtag has since then spiraled out of control, mixing several different cultural phenomena to finally end in accusations of racism and neo-Nazism. So, what's all this about? The first part of the story isn't new and something that is stirred up regularly on social media. It's about this. What is the weirdest thing you had to do at someone else's house because of their culture/religion? In a comment to this Reddit post from about a week ago, a user describes how he went to a Swedish friend's house to hang out, and when the family had dinner, had to wait for his friend in his room.
I remember going to my Swedish friend's house, and while we were playing in his room, his mom yelled that dinner was ready, and check this, he told me to wait in his room while I ate. That shit was fucking wild.
This post then spread as a screenshot to Twitter. At the same time, this map appeared. Will you receive food as a guest at someone's house? With this, the story got distorted and was no longer about whether or not classmates coming over after school were being fed or not, but about if Swedes in general are inhospitable and let hungry guests starve. From here, the discussion began to take an interesting turn and started to drift to if Swedes just did this to non-white people, and then drifted further to even include Sweden's colonial history and responsibility in slave trade at the time, between 200 and 300 years ago. The hashtag now also houses a bunch of memes and jokes from Swedes who think this whole thing is ridiculous. So what's this really about? In a nutshell, a bunch of people dwelling on the past, only remembering that they waited in their friend's room, but either not remembering or mentioning the reasons for it. Why this topic keeps popping up on social media was explained by this user on Twitter, stating that there is an angle to take for everyone to benefit from. The racists can claim only immigrants whine about this, others can complain about class and inequalities. For those who like to bash on Sweden, they can claim that Swedes are terrible people and have the worst culture, and the common Swede gets an opportunity to finally talk about themselves. Everyone wins. However, the actual reasons for this phenomenon were summed up well in this tweet. Sometimes you went to your friend's house after dinner, and thus you had already eaten. The parents didn't want to force you to sit with them, and they didn't want to interrupt whatever you were doing. The parents might not have had time or money to feed another mouth. The parents didn't want to destroy any dinner plans of the visiting child's parents. When cell phones didn't exist or were rare, families had a fixed dinner time and expected their child to show up for it hungry. Normally, you'd actually just go home when your friend had dinner, since you would most likely have dinner at your home at roughly the same time. I did in fact experience this phenomenon myself, and though it was awkward to wait for my friend in, to me, an unfamiliar room alone, in Sweden it's expected that everyone provides for themselves. Your child is your responsibility. That and the fact that we don't like to put others in our debt. That's the culture, and we'll get to that in a minute. So, as you might understand by now, there are several reasons as to why children are asked to wait while their friend is having dinner, and the common denominator for all these people on social media talking about this is only that they did indeed wait, but the reasons are probably completely different for each case, reasons they don't remember 30 years later. If they were indeed offered food, it's highly likely they in fact declined because they had a set dinner time. Left is only the memory of being alone in their friend's room. Now, let's get back to that map. Will you receive food as a guest at someone's house? If the visit is spontaneous, which is rarely the case in Sweden, no. Normally, you aren't randomly treated to food or a snack because you aren't normally staying for longer than the duration of what it takes to state your business and get your answer. For closer friends, there might be a bit of small talk on the porch happening, but then you leave. Since this is ingrained in our culture, no one expects more, and this is by no means unique to Sweden. Dinners, lunches, or most likely afternoon fika as we call it, a cup of coffee, are planned in advance and normally puts pressure on your guest to return the favor at some point. This is all embodied in the word tacksamhetsskuld, gratitude debt. This is also the reason why Swedes never split bills equally, but everyone pays their amount down to the cent, or why Swedes might get uncomfortable getting a way too expensive or extravagant gift they might not be able to repay. I'm sure you can guess why potlucks are a common thing in Sweden, or why we bring our own drinks to parties. We don't want to be indebted, and we don't want to put anyone in our debt. Since it's common for cultures around the Mediterranean Sea to be more outgoing, people on social media have started to call Swedes out for being racist, since their families always offered food, but the Swedish families never did so in return. I think this is most unfortunate and nothing more than a culture clash. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support this channel and learn more about Swedish culture or Swedish language, feel free to become a member at sayitinswedish.com or on Patreon. And if you want to discuss Swedish culture with me and other fans and learners, you can do that on our Discord server. Links are in the description down below. There you'll also find a link to get my book A Lagom Guide to Swedish, which is a phenomenal study buddy for anyone learning Swedish. Until next time, ha det så bra, puss och kram, vi hörs, hej då!